Yarrney.
Hi, welcome to another Yarrney tutorial. Today, you'll learn how to do this beautiful baby beanie. And I'll even teach you how to do this cute pom-pom here.
Woo!
Also, don't worry about beanie sizes because I'll also provide you with a baby beanie size chart according to the baby's age. Now, without further ado, let's start this tutorial. But hey, I'd super appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. In order to make this baby beanie, all you need to know is the slip knot, the chain stitch, the single crochet stitch, and the back loop only technique. We have very slow and detailed tutorial on all of these stitches and techniques on our channel, so I will be linking these videos in the description down below. Otherwise, in order for you to follow this tutorial, we will also make sure to go through each of these stitches and techniques slowly, at least once. For this tutorial on the baby beanie, I'll be using this medium number 4 acrylic yarn. For you at home, feel free to use wool or cotton yarn, which are usually softer on the skin. I'll use this 4mm crochet hook. I'll have scissors to cut the yarn, a yarn needle so we can sew the baby beanie, and the ruler just to measure the project. So the first step is to do the foundation, which is a slip knot and chain stitches. I'll be doing 36 chain stitches. At the end of my chain, I'll explain why. Now, let's start with the slip knot. In order to do the slip knot, I'll simply take the tail end of my yarn, wrap it around my index finger, and bring it on top of the working yarn. Now I'll take the working yarn, wrap a loop around my index finger, and I'll hold both tails of the yarn. I'll bring the back loop here to the front, and that's how we have a slip knot. Now I'll take my crochet hook, insert it inside the slip knot, I'll tighten it, and then I'll be ready to do my chain stitches. As I mentioned, I'll do 36 chain stitch, and for a chain, it's very easy. You simply wrap the yarn around your hook, and you will pull onto the yarn with your hook through the loop that is on your hook, like this. That's how I have one chain. So wrap the yarn around your hook, pull it through the loop, you have a second chain. So I'll go ahead and do 36 chain in total, so I have 34 more to go. So I've just completed my 36 chain here. Using the ruler, you can see that it's about 8 inches long, or equivalent to 20 centimeters. Now, I want you to remember that the length of your chain will be the height of the hat. Now, generally speaking, on average, the height of the hat needed for babies are 5 to 5.5 inches for a newborn to 3 month, and then 6 inches for a 3 to 6 month baby, then 6.25 inches for a 6 to 12 month baby, then 6.5 to 7 inches for a 12 to 24 month baby, or 7 to 7.5 inches for a toddler of 1 to 3 years old. As I mentioned, I did my chain foundation to be about 8 inches long. For this tutorial, I'm simply trying to do a baby beanie for a newborn to a 3-month-old. Now remember the chart I just showed you guys. It is recommended that the height to be between 5 to 5.5 inches. So you might be wondering, why did I do 8 inches long? This is simply because I want to be able to fold the bottom of the beanie to have a nicer effect. So instead of having a flat fabric beanie like this, I will want to fold the bottom of my beanie. This is why I added 2.5 inches longer than required. So the first row of our baby beanie will be very simple. We're simply trying to do single crochet all across this chain foundation. The first single crochet will be inserted in the second chain from the hook. So remember that the loop on the hook is never counted as a chain. So the first chain from the hook is this one right here, and then we're skipping this one, inserting our hook inside the second chain from this stitch. So each chain is represented by a V formation. So now for the single crochet, I'll insert my hook inside the second chain, in the middle of the stitch, and then I will wrap the yarn around my hook like this to pull the yarn back through the chain it just went through. Now I have 2 loops on my hook. I will wrap the yarn around my hook and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook. So now I have my first single crochet. So I'll continue doing this. Basically in the next chain stitch, insert the hook in the middle of the chain, wrap the yarn around my hook to pull it back through the chain. Then I have 2 loops on my hook, wrap the yarn around my hook to pull the yarn through both loops on the hook. So I have 2 single crochet already. Now I will keep doing this all the way until the end of the row. And remember, I did 36 chain, and because I skipped the first chain from the hook, I will have a total of 35 single crochet to do to finish row 1. Now this is the same concept no matter how many chains you did. So say your chain is a little longer because you want the height of the baby beanie to be longer, and you did 40 chains. Well, it would be the same concept where you skip the first chain from the hook, you insert your hook in the second chain from the hook, leaving you 39 single crochet to do across your chain foundation. I've just completed my 34th single crochet, so I'll go ahead and do my last single crochet of my chain foundation here. And now I have completed my 35th single crochet. So this is basically our row number 1, and don't worry if your yarn is starting to wrap around like this. It will become flat as you add on more rows. And so now in order to move on to our second row, we're simply going to do a chain, which is simply wrap the yarn around your hook, pull the yarn through the loop, and you have a chain here. And now we're simply going to turn our project around like this. And remember, we always want to work from the right side towards the left, which is why we always chain 1 and turn before each of the new rows. So for the second row, it's very similar concept where we want to do single crochet across the entire row. However, we want to work our single crochet in the back loops only. So what does this mean? So I'll just turn my project sideways here so we can see the top of the stitches. As you can see, each of the stitches is represented by a V formation. So this V is a stitch here, and so on. Generally speaking, in order to do a single crochet, you insert the hook under the full stitch, meaning the hook goes under both legs of the V. Now for back loops only, essentially the back loop is the leg of the V that is farthest from you. So this one leg of the V here that I'm pulling with the hook, this is the back loop of a stitch. So just remember, it's always the loop that is farthest from you. So in order to do a single crochet in the back loop only, instead of inserting the hook under the full stitch, we will simply insert our hook in the middle of the stitch of the V formation and having the hook come under the back loop only like this. So now let's do our second row with single crochet in the back loop only. So just like earlier, we're going to skip this first stitch here, working our single crochet in the second stitch in the back loop only. So insert the hook in the middle of your stitch so that the hook comes out under the back loop only, like this. Now wrap the yarn around your hook to pull the yarn through the back loop here. Now as you can see, you have 2 loops on your hook. You will wrap the yarn around your hook to pull the yarn through both loops. So now you have your first single crochet in the back loop only. So we're continuing this for the entire row. So hook in the middle, coming out under the back loop only. Wrap your yarn around your hook to pull it back through the back loop. Now you have 2 loops on your hook. Wrap the yarn and pull it through both loops. And just like that, I have 2 single crochet in the back loop only. Now remember, you want to have the exact same number of stitches for every row. So we did 35 single crochet in our first row. Now we're going to do 35 single crochet in the back loops only for the second row. So I've just completed my 34th single crochet in the back loop only. I'll go ahead and do my last 35th single crochet in the back loop only. And now I've completed my row number 2, and I'll move on to row number 3. And remember, in between each rows you want to chain 1, and then you would turn your project around so you work always from the right side towards the left. Now from row 3 onwards, it's going to be the exact same thing as what we just did in row 2, meaning we will do single crochet in the back loop only for the entire row, then chain 1 and turn until we reach the desired size of the beanie. So in order to know when to stop adding rows to the beanie, you can measure the circumference of the head of the baby. Use that measurement and do your rows until you reach it. Otherwise, you can also follow this general chart here, which is based on the average size of baby's head. So basically, for a newborn to 3-month-old baby beanie, I'll do rows until I reach about 13 to 14 inches. Now, if you look at this 2 rows we did here, essentially every time we do 2 rows, it will be 1 rib of the baby beanie. What I mean by rib is, if you look at this patch here, you essentially see ribs coming out. So every rib is the formation of 2 rows. And as such, in order to have full ribs all around, make sure you have an even number of rows. So like I mentioned, for row 3 and onwards, all we're going to do is single crochet in the back loops only over and over. And remember, you want to have the exact same number of stitches for each row so that your project looks rectangular. And so I did 35 single crochet. So for my row 3, I'll go ahead and do 35 single crochet in the back loop only. And I'll do so until all my rows, an even number of rows, reaches 13 to 14 inches in order to do a baby beanie for a newborn to 3-month-old. So I've just completed the last single crochet in the back loop only, and I arrive at this rectangular shaped swatch here. And remember, I mentioned in this tutorial I'm doing a baby beanie for a newborn to 3-month-old, and so I needed the length of my rows to be about 13 to 14 inches long based on the chart. And so using this ruler, as you can see, the length is going beyond the 12 inches, which arrives approximately between 13 to 14 inches. Now to do this, I did in total 62 rows. Now after we're done with this, we're essentially going to cut the yarn. Now make sure you cut a long tail because we want to use the tail to join these 2 pieces together to make the beanie. Now once you've cut the yarn, go back to your last stitch and make sure you just do 1 chain. And then after you do that chain, simply pull onto the yarn. This will make sure it secures your stitch just like this. So our next step is to join the 2 sides together to form a cylinder. And now we will take our yarn needle and we will use this yarn needle in order to sew the 2 parts together. Now before we start stitching the 2 sides together, make sure you align your stitches perfectly. And if you need help, you can use a paper clip or a stitch marker to mark the stitches together at different points. And now in order to stitch the 2 sides, what we're going to do is insert our needle under the full stitch of the side that is closest to you, and then the needle will go in the back loop only of the side that is farthest from you. So my first stitch here is this V formation, as you can see right here. And so instead of inserting my needle under the full stitch, I will insert it in the middle so that it comes out on the back loop only. So just like this, and then I'll do the same thing for all the stitches all across. So needle under the full stitch of the side closest to you, but capturing only the back loop only of the side farthest from you. So I've just completed sewing this row here together, and I'll just simply do a knot to secure my last stitch. And then to make sure it's fully secured, I'll attach both ends of the tails together. So the next step is very simple. All we're trying to do is shut one end of the beanie. And in order to do that, we see all of those ribs of our beanie here. Well, we will simply insert our needle under the top stitch of each rib. And so going inside, and then from the inside to the outside on the top stitch of each rib. And then going inside, and you can pull onto the yarn as you go. In order to do this, and the reason we're doing this is that at the end, when we're going all around the top stitch of each rib with our needle going inside and outside, we will be able to pull onto the yarn, and this will shut the hole. So now that I've completed putting my yarn under each stitch of the top rib here all around, I will gently pull onto the tail so that it shuts the top of the beanie. You don't want to pull it on too hard to not break the yarn. So just be patient with this portion here. So once the top is shut as much as possible, you can attach the two tails again to secure the yarn. And then feel free to do a couple knots as well so that it's fully secured. So as you can see, after shutting the top here, there's still going to be a hole. This is perfectly fine because we will now do the pom-pom, and we will sew the pom-pom in here, which will hide the hole entirely. In order to do the pom-pom, I'll use a different colored yarn. And so to do the pom-pom, we will simply take the yarn, put a tail end on our head, and then we will start wrapping the yarn around our fingers. Now we will be doing this many times because we want our pom-pom to be very voluminous. So I think that's enough. I'll simply cut my yarn here. As you can see, it is a pretty thick yarn here that I've rolled around my hand. So now I will carefully remove the yarn roll on my hand. Like this, and go and cut 2 pieces of a yarn about 12 inches long. So I've just cut 2 pieces of yarn like this, about 12 inches long, and I want to do is simply take the yarn here, put this ball of yarn on top so that my yarn is in the middle, and I want to wrap the yarn in the middle here as tightly as possible. Now you will want to do a couple knots just to secure everything. And then I'll take my second piece of yarn and do the same thing. Do a couple more knots just to make sure it's fully secured. So basically, this is what it looks like. I have 4 tails like this, and these tails here are going to be used to sew this pom-pom on top of our beanie. So now we will take our scissors and go in the middle section of each side here to cut these yarns apart. So make sure you insert your scissors in the middle portion. If you've missed on anything, just go back and cut them in the middle portion. And then we'll simply go do the same thing on the other end, inserting our scissors in the middle in order to cut. So you still have your ties, and now what you want to do is simply just trim them, because you will have some yarn that is longer than others. So once you're satisfied with how your pom-pom looks, we'll simply take our beanie here, and we can simply use our hook here in order to pull the 4 longer tail from the inside here. So I'll pull my hook on anywhere on top here, and I'll go grab the pieces of yarn one by one so that it goes inside the beanie. Now I'll go inside my beanie, and I have my 4 pieces of yarn. I want to simply attach them with knots a few times. Once you know that these 4 yarn are fully secured, you can go back on top here, and going from the top to grab onto the inside yarn to pull it out. And these will be part of the pom-poms as well. And we can simply cut so that it's the same length as the pom-pom. And just like that, we have this nice and very easy to make crochet baby beanie with a pom-pom. I really hope you enjoyed this video, guys. And as always, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more tutorials.